Patting the boy's head, the man tells Yul to be gentle so he doesn't hurt Soya. Hyun looks at his father and asks for the identity of the sleeping child they found. Soya's pink eye begins to open as she slowly wakes from her deep, exhausted slumber. Soya sits up in bed, shouting in confusion as she wonders where she's been taken. Seon explains they are with the White Tiger clan, protectors of the Taewak Kingdom's western region. A mysterious voice reveals that this man was the one who stole the young girl away. A sudden grab makes a sharp sound as Soya reacts with visible shock and deep fear. Soya looks at Seon with dread, realizing he was the one who kidnapped her from home. Narration describes the Taewak Kingdom as a land filled with various powerful and diverse beastkin creatures. A massive orange tiger lets out a ferocious roar while moving through the dense, dark forest. A silhouetted imperial figure stands before a glowing throne ruling over the entire beastkin kingdom. The warrior silhouette represents the Azure Dragon, one of the 4 great legendary divine clans. The White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise clans are shown in their unique silhouetted forms. Glowing embers surround text explaining how divine bloodlines are inherited through ancient, powerful ancestral lineages. The Grand Palace of the Southern Vermilion Bird clan towers over the beautifully decorated palace grounds. Servants gossip about the Lord's rare display of tenderness while he carefully carries the child. Yeon carries Soya across a red bridge as flower petals flutter peacefully through the warm air. Soya happily calls out to her father while he holds her with a gentle, loving smile. Yeon encourages Soya to be brave while she addresses the orange-haired boy as her brother. Narration explains Soya was once the most precious and beloved youngest daughter of her noble clan. Soya prays fervently to become a magnificent vermilion bird with red feathers just like her father. A sudden chirp sounds as Soya unexpectedly transforms into a small, round, and fluffy white bird. The servants are horrified to see the child has manifested strange and unexpected pure white feathers. A single, vibrant orange feather floats alone on the surface of the shimmering blue palace water. The scene shifts back 7 years to the day a child was born into the clan. A loud cry echoes from behind a screen featuring a majestic flying bluebird painting. A woman lies in a dim room while a servant prepares a basin of fresh water. 2 servants whisper in the shadows, asking if the other has seen the new baby yet. A baby cries as the servants notice her hair is an impossible, pure snow-white color. They note that neither parent has white hair, making the baby's appearance quite suspicious and impossible. A servant suggests the child might have been swapped or the madam was being unfaithful. Furious, Yeon silences the servants, forbidding anyone from questioning his late wife's absolute fidelity. A glowing blue soul floats above a hand, representing power inherited strictly through the blood. The direct lineages of the 4 divine beasts were remarkably strong and very distinct. The ancient, powerful forms of the vermilion bird and the black tortoise are shown together. The Azure Dragon and the White Tiger roar, showcasing the legendary power of their noble bloodlines. Glowing purple chains illustrate how marriage seals the bloodline of one of the joining spouses. Yeon assumed an ancestor of his late wife must have once possessed rare white hair traits. He initially believed there would be no issue with this child having such snow-white hair. Yeon believed her first transformation would eventually prove her true divine bloodline to the entire clan. He expected her to manifest the signature red feathers that signify a true, magnificent vermilion bird. Confused, the small white bird tilts her head and lets out a soft, questioning chirp. A quick chirp sounds as the little bird hops toward her father's royal shoes. A thud sounds as a violent red energy blast strikes the bird, throwing her back forcefully. Yeon stares down with glowing orange eyes, his face contorted with a mixture of shock and rage. The crowd looks on in terror as the atmosphere in the palace becomes incredibly cold and tense. A harsh command calls for the child's core to be extracted and for her immediate banishment. The tiny bird looks up in terror, her small voice crying out for her father's help. Yeon threatens to show no mercy to anyone who speaks a word of today's events. Soya trembles as she wonders why her father is looking at her with such cold hatred. Confused by her transformation, the small white bird wonders why her feathers aren't red like her father's. A heavy question hangs in the air as she wonders if she has failed her first transformation. Low-spirited, the bird worries her father is disappointed before hearing heavy footsteps approaching her. An orange-haired woman stares down at the bird with concern, suggesting there might be a way to fix things. Chirp! A hand glows with blue energy as it roughly extracts the spirit core from the terrified bird. Soya returns to her human form, her long white hair cascading down as white feathers float around her. Looking down with contempt, the orange-haired woman demands to know why Soya called someone her brother. Kneeling on the floor, Soya begs for another chance to transform correctly while the woman looms over her. The woman's orange eyes glow with malice as she accuses Soya of being deceitful and tricking the clan. Gripping Soya's shoulder, the woman issues a chilling threat to never show her face again. A dark thought lingers about tearing off the girl's pathetic white wings as dark feathers drift through the air. A somber announcement reveals that Jaeok Soya was banished to the cold palace overnight following the incident. Thud! The young girl is thrown onto the hard floor of a dark room as the doors creak shut. Staring at a single white feather in her palm, Soya blames the fluff for her sudden fall from grace. Clasping her hands in prayer, the girl desperately hopes a successful transformation will restore her family's love. Soya collapses in pain, coughing up blood that stains her hands on the floor of the cold room. She recalls how her brother stole the spirit core she needs to manifest her true beastkin powers. Driven by the hope of winning back her family's hearts, Soya continues to pray despite her physical suffering. Cruel rumors spread throughout the palace, confirming that her feathers were indeed pure white rather than red. Shivering under a thin blanket, the small girl suffers through the night in her lonely wooden bed. Whispers fill the halls as servants question if the girl is a legitimate child from the late madam. Shh! Two servants gossip about why the girl remains in the palace despite the Lord's command of secrecy. A harsh declaration labels the young girl as the greatest shame of the noble Vermilion Bird clan. Lying awake in the dark, Soya listens as the voices confirm the cold reality of her new life. A painful realization sinks in as Soya accepts that she was never considered her father's real daughter. Time skips forward 3 years as a laundry tub sits by a shimmering blue pool of water. Scrubbing clothes by the water, Soya notes it has been a long month since the last washing. Carrying a heavy wooden tub, the older Soya tells someone they should hurry back and change their clothes. The narrative notes that the clan has completely forgotten the existence of their once beloved little lady. A hand holds up a vibrant orange feather, a stark contrast to the white feathers of Soya's past. A new girl with orange hair and eyes introduces herself to the clan by the name Riri. Lord Yayun stands beside the newcomer, presenting her to the gathered servants and guards of the palace. The girl's name echoes through the courtyard as she makes her formal introduction to the Vermilion Bird clan. The orange feather catches the sunlight, representing the divine bloodline the clan has been searching for. Riri explains that she's 9 years old and recently underwent her very first successful beast transformation. She claims that people recognized her feathers and told her she could find her true family here. Lord Yanyun skeptically asks why she didn't just transform herself instead of bringing a single loose feather. He demands proof to believe her story, prompting Riri to desperately insist that she can perform the transformation. Puff, a sudden cloud of blue smoke erupts as the young girl attempts to shift her form. The smoke begins to clear as Yayun and the crowd wait with bated breath to see the result. Shock washes over the faces of the Lord and his servants as they witness the transformation. A floral border surrounds text confirming there is no longer any doubt about the girl's direct bloodline. Chirp! A small round orange bird sits proudly on a white silk pillow before the amazed onlookers. The orange bird wobbles slightly as it begins to shift back into its human form. Puff! A final burst of energy signals the end of the transformation as the girl returns to human shape. Yayun rushes forward and catches the collapsing girl, asking with great concern if she is all right. Riri weakly explains that her spirit core is fragile, making each transformation a dangerous strain on her heart. She recounts being very sick as a young child and failing to receive proper treatment in time. Tears well up in Riri's eyes as she laments being a child who cannot even transform properly. Wah! Yeyun pulls the girl into a tight, emotional hug, apologizing for not recognizing her as his daughter immediately. Riri shares her overwhelming happiness at finally having a father and an older brother. Looking up with hope, Riri asks Lord Yayun if she can officially call him father. Yeyun warmly accepts, while the long-haired orange boy expresses his own joy as her brother. Soya watches from the shadows as Riri calls out happily to her father and brother. A gentle smile spreads across the face of the long-haired orange boy as he watches. The orange-haired woman watches the family reunion with a look of pure, satisfied delight. Soya clutches her heavy wooden laundry tub, her heart sinking as she watches the reunion. Riri spots the white-haired girl in the courtyard and curiously asks Yeyun who the child is. The orange-haired woman dismisses Soya as a smelly mansion worker who doesn't deserve any attention. Soya hangs her head as she blushes in deep embarrassment from the woman's cruel insults. Riri stops Yayun as he tries to lead her away, insisting they wait for a moment. Pointing her finger, Riri demands that the white-haired girl be assigned as her personal servant. Yayun hesitates, noting that the girl is too small and would likely be difficult to manage. Yayun sighs as he looks at Riri, his expression softened by her youthful and insistent pleading. Yayun promises to give Riri whatever she desires, prompting her to cheer for her wonderful father. Shocked, the orange-haired woman attempts to remind Yayun of who the white-haired child actually is. Yayun silences the woman with a sharp gesture, insisting they follow Riri's wishes without question. Giggling happily, Riri leads Yayun through the palace hall while Soya follows silently behind them. Yayun gazes down at Riri and asks if having a personal servant makes her truly happy. Riri confirms her love for the arrangement while Soya stands behind her looking completely devastated. Riri describes her lonely past on the streets where she didn't have a single friend. Yayun looks troubled as Riri recounts being hated and called a beggar without any parents. Yayun acknowledges her painful story with a brief somber response as he looks at her. Yayun asks Riri to step outside with her brother for a moment so he can speak. Soya flinches in shock as her father coldly notes that it has been a while. Yayun stands before Soya, stating her situation is so clear he won't waste any words. He explains a rumor that a maid swapped Soya with Riri at birth, causing Riri's suffering. Yayun accuses Soya of being a maid's daughter who took everything rightfully belonging to Riri. His eyes burn with rage as he vows to do anything for his returned true daughter. Soya clutches her chest in agony as her father's words shatter her heart into pieces. A memory of Yayun holding a laughing, white-haired toddler flashes briefly across the pain girl's mind. Yayun warns Soya to never reveal her identity or allow Riri to get hurt because of her. Soya stands alone in the shadows, her eyes filled with tears after her father's cruel ultimatum. Stacks of colorful gift boxes signify the arrival of a highly prestigious and royal imperial guest. Servants gossip about the imperial fifth prince arriving to discuss a marriage proposal with the Lady Riri. Riri smiles modestly, suggesting that being the Golden Dragon's bride sounds far too good for her. A servant admires Riri's hair, noting the red gold hue is unique to their direct noble glove line. Riri admires her reflection as Soya struggles with heavy boxes in the background of the room. Soya looks exhausted, her face covered in dirt as she carries the heavy luggage for the guest. The small white-haired girl is nearly hidden beneath the massive weight of the stacked gift boxes. A sudden soft escapes Soya's lips as she struggles to hold onto the heavy packages. Soya gasps in surprise as she realizes she has nearly walked into a very important person. A magnificent golden carriage stops before the palace, carrying the prince from the distant imperial family. Prince Jae-iram is formally introduced as he steps forward with a calm and gentle expression. Riri bows and greets the prince, welcoming him to the lands of the noble vermilion bird. Peering from behind her fellow servants, Soya realizes the noble guest is indeed the fifth prince. Jae-iram's striking green eyes scan the gathered crowd with a look of intense, curious focus. Jae-iram's eye reflects Soya's silhouette as he stares intensely at the startled white-haired servant girl. The prince ignores the formal greetings, his gaze fixed entirely on Soya as she looks back. Soya bows low while the long-haired orange boy watches the prince's strange behavior with great curiosity. The brown-haired woman wonders if the girl is greeting the prince just for personal gain. A sharp thought suggests she is after the prince after stealing Lady Rui's rightful place. Soya hangs her head, her face flushing red with a mix of deep shame and sadness. Her desperation peaks as Soya pounds her fist against the door, begging someone to open it. The maid orders her to stay inside until the young lady's birthday party is over. Outside the room, two servants mock her for trying to curry favor with the prince. Leaning against the wall, Soya remains silent as tears of frustration and loneliness begin to fall. Looking through the barred window at the moon, she wonders how many hours have passed. The quiet is interrupted by a low growl sounding from her stomach as she sits alone. The white-haired girl feels completely forgotten, certain no one even knows she's gone missing. A somber truth resonates. There is simply no one who would ever come looking for her. Clutching her hands together in prayer, she coughs, leaving dark bloodstains on the floor. Suddenly, a voice calls out her name, accompanied by bright bursts of light in the darkness. Startled, Soya looks toward the light with wide eyes, her heart racing at the sudden interruption. The silence is broken as the heavy door swings open with a slow, loud creak. A weary sigh escapes the visitor's lips as they step further into the dusty storage room. Confusion and disbelief wash over the small girl as she stares at the unexpected visitor before her. Jae-iram, the fifth prince, looks down at her with a gentle and knowing expression. The prince asks how she arrived there and how she managed to know his name. Holding a vibrant red ornament, he asks if she would remember him if he returned it. Soya gazes at the ornament in shock, realizing it is something very familiar from her past. A caption marks a shift to 3 years ago when Soya saw a boy crying alone. She recalls meeting a young lord grieving his mother's death in the imperial palace garden. The young boy sits with his head down, overwhelmed by the weight of his profound loss. A narrative note identifies him as Iram, a child who lived within the imperial palace. The young boy explains how looking at his mother's ornament gives him much-needed comfort. Vibrant pink flowers bloom as he describes how deeply precious the item is to his heart. Young Soya encourages the boy to find strength and offers to lend him the ornament. The boy hesitates to accept the ornament because he knows it belonged to her mother. With a bright, innocent smile, the young girl reassures him that it is perfectly all right. Looking into her eyes, the young lord finally relents and softly agrees to her kind offer. He stares at the small red orb in his hand, touched by the girl's unexpected generosity. They make a solemn pinky promise, with Soya happily addressing him as her brother Rim. Returning to the present, the prince offers a warm smile that mirrors the memory she held. Soya is stunned to realize that the boy she once knew is actually his Imperial Highness. Iram expresses relief at seeing her, while Soya reflects on his royal identity as his highness. The prince's green eyes sparkle with a kind of warmth Soya hasn't felt in a long time. Soya suddenly remembers that today is the day of Lady Rira's grand 9th birthday celebration. Tears spill over as she clutches the returned ornament, overcome by a flood of complex emotions. Soya apologizes for her sudden tears, explaining they are simply because she is so happy. The prince kindly requests that she address him the same way she used to. His expression turns serious as he asks her to explain exactly what happened during their time apart. Iram notes how much she has changed and asks her to explain what has happened. A caption confirms she told the prince everything that had happened during their time apart. The prince listens to her story about her first transformation and realizes something is wrong. A look of realization crosses the prince's face as he pieces together the girl's tragic story. Iram stands up suddenly, prompting Soya to ask if he is all right in her surprise. The prince declares he must return to the imperial palace to confirm something very important. He tells Soya not to be disappointed and promises to return for her very soon. Reaching out with a promise, he assures her that he will come back for her shortly. Iram promises to take Soya to the imperial palace upon his return if she permits. The orange-haired girl peeks through the wooden bars, witnessing the secret promise made. Clad in white, Riri stands outside with a shocked and deeply suspicious expression. Riri wonders what trick the white-haired girl used to get the prince's favor. A flashback shows Riri with her family while Soya works hard on the laundry. Riri resented Soya's beauty, feeling that even the servant's face was too pretty. Rita's jealousy intensified as she noticed the subtle attention her father and brother gave Soya. To assert her dominance, Riri intentionally bullied the white-haired girl to remind her of her place. Recalling Iram's vow to take Soya away, Rira's face darkens with a cold resolve. A dark thought manifests. She must drive Soya away before the prince can return. Riri holds the red orb ornament aloft, accusing the white-haired girl of stealing her. Stunned and trembling, Soya is unable to form a coherent defense against the theft accusation. Riri mockingly suggests that no one would believe the prince gave a servant such a gift. The orange-haired girl realizes the item belonged to the late madam, sparking further outrage. Riri demands to know why a lowly servant possesses something that belonged to her mother. Soya resolves to apologize and beg for forgiveness while Riri continues her aggressive interrogation. Riri's internal rage peaks as she accuses the white-haired girl of shamelessly stealing her place. A sharp exclamation signals that Riri has finally identified the culprit behind her misery. Pointing a finger, Riri confronts Soya in a room filled with shelves of pottery. Overcome by the intensity of her own hatred, Riri suddenly collapses and begins to faint. A panicked voice calls out for help as Lady Riri falls to the floor. Narration explains that learning Soya was a fake daughter caused Riri to fall ill. Soya walks through the palace determined to apologize for the turmoil she has caused. Peeking into the room, Soya overhears Riri pleading for her parents to remove her. A chilling declaration from Riri confirms she cannot coexist under the same sky as Soya. A heavy thud echoes as Soya flinches, devastated by the rejection she just witnessed. The white-haired girl looks away in sorrow, her heart heavy with the weight of Riri's hatred. The orange-haired boy agrees to the request, his eyes downcast as he listens to Riri. A cold promise is made to remove the upsetting child from the young lady's sight. Soya's eye wells with tears, reflecting the despair of being discarded by her family. Sitting in a beautiful garden pavilion, the orange-haired boy acknowledges Soya's arrival. With a calm gaze, the boy welcomes Soya to the tranquil lakeside setting. Soya anticipates the worst, expecting her brother to order her immediate departure from the clan. Unexpectedly, the orange-haired boy expresses deep regret and apologizes for his past cold treatment. Soya accepts the apology and the boy asks her to call him brother once again. Noticing the summer festival's final day, the boy invites Soya to attend it with him. Shock and disbelief wash over Soya as she stares at her brother's sudden kindness. A warm memory surfaces of the two dancing together when they were much younger. The orange-haired boy reaches into his robes preparing to reveal a hidden secret. He conjures a glowing blue orb of magic, holding it out for the girl to see. Soya watches the floating magic in awe, surprised by the display of supernatural power. She realizes her brother no longer cares about the dangers of her potential beastification. The scene shifts to a vibrant, lantern-lit festival street filled with traditional architecture. Happy families and children enjoy the festivities as white blossoms fall through the air. Soya stands amidst the celebration, clutching a skewer of fruit with a look of wonder. The brother checks if Soya likes the food and she quickly expresses her gratitude. They stop at a vendor stall filled with jewelry and small ornate accessories. Soya nibbles on her snack with a content, slightly comical expression of pure joy. The boy asks the vendor for a red gemstone bracelet as a special gift. The vendor assumes the to her siblings, predicting Soya will be very happy with it. The orange-haired boy points to a bead bracelet and tells the vendor he will buy it. Handing the bracelet to Soya, Huayu says it is hers, while she reacts in silent surprise. A somber shadow falls over the orange-haired boy's face as he gazes at his little sister. Soya smiles, explaining she always wanted to attend the festival and thanks Huayu for keeping his promise. The orange-haired boy grits his teeth, clearly struggling with a heavy and painful inner conflict. Against a sunset sky filled with lanterns, the orange-haired boy calls out to Soya. Huayu asks Soya to wait for him while she begins to feel suddenly and strangely unwell. Clutching her head in pain, Soya asks what is happening as her vision becomes distorted and strange. A terrifying vision shows a masked man confirming Soya's death to an unseen inquirer while Soya questions her fate. Soya's red eyes widen in horror as she experiences a jarring and supernatural mental shock. Huayu promises to return if she waits right here, but the narration warns it is a lie. Watching him walk away, Soya realizes with heart-wrenching certainty that she is being abandoned at this moment. Closing her eyes, the white-haired girl accepts her lonely fate amidst a shower of falling petals. Night settles over the festival bridge as glowing lanterns reflect off the dark, lotus-filled water. Looking at her new bracelet, Soya reflects that her brother Huayu seems to know nothing at all. Hunched over in pain, Soya reveals she is allergic to peaches, which happen to be Riri's favorite fruit. Huddled on the ground, she tells herself she just needs to endure the illness for a few hours. Alone and sick, Soya despairs over having nowhere to go and having nothing left to her name. A sudden, urgent voice screams for Soya to run away as a red flash of light appears. A black scabbard slams into the ground, startling the girl as she senses immediate and deadly danger. Heavy, menacing footsteps echo through the silence as a mysterious figure in dark boots approaches her. Trembling with fear, Soya's gaze is fixed on the terrifying threat that has suddenly appeared before her. Recognizing the masked man from her earlier vision, Soya realizes the assassin from her dream is now real. The masked killer asks what happened to the girl named Soya and declares that she is dead. Soya realizes her vision was likely a prophecy of the future and her brother's intent to kill her. A blood-red thought confirms the horrific truth: her own brother is truly planning to take her life. Shifting to a dark setting, the orange-haired boy's expression is cold and devoid of any brotherly love. Recalling Huayu's promise to remove her for Riri, Soya realizes he meant to kill her all along. Staring upward, the white-haired girl wonders about the source of the mysterious voice that warned her just now. Soya stops her racing thoughts, realizing there is something even more important she must deal with immediately. Knowing she is in mortal danger, Soya determines that she must run away as fast as possible. With quick, frantic steps, Soya begins to run for her life down the dark city alleyways. Panicked and gasping for air, the young girl flees as fast as her small legs carry her. Soya races through the quiet streets, the warm glow of festival lanterns now feeling distant and cold. Her desperate flight is interrupted when she suddenly loses her footing and begins to fall. A sharp jolt of pain and light marks the moment Soya's escape attempt takes a dangerous turn. With a loud crash, the white-haired girl tumbles violently down the hard stone stairs of the alley. Tumbling to the ground, Soya cries out in pain as she finds her bead bracelet shattered on the floor. The masked assassin looms over Soya, declaring that he has finally caught the little rat of a girl. Raising his blade high, the assassin prepares to deliver the final fatal blow to the cornered girl. As the assassin swings his blade, Soya cowers in fear, certain that she is about to die. A sudden, powerful clash of steel erupts as a blue light stops the assassin's blade midair. Soya gasps in confusion, opening her eyes to find that someone has suddenly intervened to save her. Catching a glimpse of her savior's dark robes, Sawyer wonders for a split second if her father arrived. Looking closer, the white-haired girl realizes with shock that the man standing before her is not her father. A white-haired man in a tiger print robe draws a massive sword as a spectral tiger roars. A sharp exclamation of shock rings out as the witnesses realize a spectral white tiger has appeared. With cold, piercing blue eyes, the powerful warrior stands ready to protect the girl from her attacker. Baek-san is identified as the White Tiger clan head, while someone unseen urges him to rest his fever. Kneeling before his master, Baek-sion reports he is well and awaits a command for an important request. A golden-haired woman on a throne orders Baek-sion to steal the Vermilion Bird's treasure. Baek-sion questions the confusing order to commit theft, though its true purpose remains hidden. The golden-haired lady promises the dragon blood herb for Baek-sion if he completes the mission. Looking serious, the ruler watches as the powerful warrior prepares for his mission to the south. Narration explains that the dragon blood herb is a legendary plant born from ancient dragon blood. The herb is described as the only elixir capable of purifying a corrupted spirit core's essence. Standing amidst festival lanterns, Baek-sion knows he cannot refuse this life-saving master-offered condition. The white-haired warrior ponders what constitutes the most precious treasure in the southern bird's lands. He assumes the goal is the Jiak clan's legendary treasure bow, an unmatched ancient artifact. Narration questions if the treasure is merely a simple object as the warrior continues his search. A powerful strike flashes through the night as Baek-sion stands over a defeated attacker. Baek-san observes the fallen man, noting the details of the masked assassin hunting Soya. He identifies the bird mark as the symbol of warriors serving the elite Vermilion Bird clan. The white-haired man wonders why such elite warriors would target a helpless small white-haired child. Soya looks up with wide, tear-filled eyes, clearly terrified by the sudden and violent encounter. Baek-san studies the girl, curiously asking what kind of little fluffball he just rescued. Relieved but confused, Soya reflects that for a brief moment, the man reminded her of her father. She stares at the warrior's broad back, feeling a sense of protection long missing. Narration explains that her father was the only person who ever felt so solid and capable. As he turns, Soya chides herself for thinking her father would ever bother protecting her again. The warrior asks if the fluffball is all right, but she retorts that she is no fluffball at all. Despite her protest, Soya remains huddled on the ground, blushing as her earlier terror slowly fades. The warrior gives a small smile, remarking that even her name sounds soft like a fluffball. He identifies the fallen chicken heads as lackeys belonging to the hated Vermilion Bird clan. Soya realizes with a heavy heart that her terrifying vision of death was a cold reality. Silent tears begin to fall as the weight of her family's betrayal finally breaks her spirit. Baek-san notices the girl's sudden distress and leans in closer with a look of concern. A soft sob escapes Soya as she struggles with the overwhelming grief of being discarded. He admits he is terrible at comforting children, his expression shifting to a sudden, panicked worry. Reaching out tentatively, Baek-san places a comforting hand on the white-haired girl's trembling shoulder. The warrior offers to take her home to her family, noting it's too late for a fluffball. Soya wipes her eyes, her small hands moving rhythmically as she prepares to deliver a truth. He asks if she ran away, and she explains that she simply has no family left. Soya's firm declaration of having no family leaves Baek-san in stunned, thoughtful silence. Recalling his master's order, Baek-san reflects on the mystery of the Vermilion Bird's treasure. He realizes this mysterious child is deeply and strangely entangled with the fate of the South. With a bright, sudden grin, the warrior lifts Soya, surprising the small, white-haired girl completely. Soya reacts with total shock as she begins to understand that she is the intended treasure. Baek-san declares she is his favorite thing and asks to steal her away tonight. The girl stares at him in disbelief, her mind racing at the invitation to leave everything. A warm memory of being held by her kind father flashes briefly through Soya's conflicted mind. She recalls a happier time spent with her family before the betrayal changed her life forever. The image of her father holding her as an infant surfaces, a painful reminder of loss. The word "but" hangs in the air, signaling the end of her attachment to the past. Soya looks at the warrior, the question of her survival and future weighing heavily upon her. A desperate thought echoes in the darkness. She truly does not want to die like this. Watching her savior stand guard over the assassin, Soya finally makes a life-altering decision. Clutching her robes, Soya begs the white-haired man to take her away from her misery. Baek-san introduces himself as Master of the West and learns her name is Soya. Jokingly calling her fluffball again, he walks away with her, calling it a mutual agreement. Baek-san worries rumors will spread about his thievery, but Soya promises never to report him. Soya despondently notes her disappearance would please her family, leading Baek-san to ask fluffball? Baek-san gazes down with deep concern as the exhausted child rests in his protective embrace. Placing a hand on her face, Baeksayeon realizes Soya is burning up like a fireball. The story shifts to the White Tiger estate in the west under a bright sunny sky. A majestic, sprawling palace of the White Tiger clan stands as a symbol of power and tradition. Yul marvels at Soya's tiny frame while Baeksayeon warns him to be careful with her. Blink, Soya's red eyes flutter open as she begins to wake up in a safe room. Staring at the ornate, unfamiliar ceiling, the young girl wonderingly asks herself where she is now. Soya sits up, finding Baeksayeon and his family waiting to see if she is awake. Soya remembers losing consciousness and realizes that Baeksayeon must have carried her all this way. Baeksayeon orders an examination for Soya, though she insists that it is not at all necessary. Soya explains her illness was caused by a peach, leaving the warrior to question, a peach? Baeksayeon questions the danger of fruit while a doctor explains that some bodies reject it. The warrior leader stares ahead with a serious, contemplative look as he processes the girl's situation. Baeksayeon orders the immediate disposal of every peach in the estate while Soya protests the extreme measure. Yul asks his father who the girl is, clearly curious about the newcomer in their family home. Baeksan claims he stole her, leading Yul to ask if his father has become a thief. Soya remains on the bed, her face flushed with the shy blush as she faces the onlookers. Baeksayeon tells Soya she will live there now, a prospect she repeats in stunned, quiet disbelief. Soya gazes forward with a look of wide-eyed wonder, her small hands resting on her new robes. A glowing blue jewel pulses with faint lightning energy on the front of the girl's handbag. A gray-haired girl watches suspiciously from the shadows, questioning her father's choice in bringing Soya home. Narration explains the significance of housing a child of unknown origins in the prestigious West Wing. Yul holds hands with Soya, now dressed in a blue handbook, as he leads her away. The room was reserved for those adopted into the White Tiger family when no daughter was born. Adopted children are raised as candidates for the prestigious and powerful role of Bride of the Golden Dragon. This chosen candidate is destined to become the companion of the emperor who rules the entire continent. Leading Soya, Yul realizes the child is definitely not a tiger despite being in their territory. He notices how small and white her hands are, finding them to be incredibly soft and delicate. A playful narrative thought asks if the quiet, white-haired girl is actually more like a cat. Perhaps she is a rabbit, suited for nibbling grass rather than the life of a fierce warrior. Yul's expression shifts as he thinks, "Don't tell me," as a worrying possibility occurs to him. He wonders if his father plans to present Soya instead of a child from the branch family. Soya stands in her blue and white outfit, her red eyes reflecting the bright morning light. A close-up reveals Soya's curious and slightly nervous expression as she takes in her new surroundings. A voice introduces the back garden as petals from the trees above drift through the air. Yul leads Soya through a stone arch into a vibrant garden filled with blooming blue hydrangea bushes. Yul politely asks if the flowers are beautiful while secretly grumbling about having to guide the kid. Yul suggests heading to the library next, but Soya remains silent and hesitant behind him. Someone calls out to the young master as the sun shines brightly over the lush green garden. Yul claims he is busy, but Soya politely interjects that she will look around by herself. Soya thanks Yul for the tour, leaving the boy surprised by her unexpected and polite independence. With a bright and tearful smile, Soya encourages him to return to his work and not worry. Petals fall over the peaceful garden architecture, marking a moment of quiet solitude for the girl. Soya fears she is a bother, while shadowy figures nearby complain about the troublesome new child. Oh, Soya is suddenly alerted by a sound coming from one of the nearby palace buildings. A younger boy with white hair peeks cautiously from behind a door to look at her. Gasp! Soya spots the youngest young master, surprising him as he tries to hide behind the door. Blushing and flustered, the little boy panics and wonders what he should do now he's seen. A clumsy foot trips over the threshold. Tuck! A sudden sharp sound rings out. Blue skies fill with drifting birds as a loud crash echoes through the palace grounds. Hearing a pain scream, Soya rushes toward a building and asks if anyone is hurt. The youngest boy yells for Soya to stay away despite her concern for his bleeding knee. Gasp! The white-haired boy recoils in shock as he notices the fresh blood on his leg. His eyes brim with tears as he struggles to maintain his composure after the painful fall. The boy, Baek-ga-yul, boastfully claims that only weak fluffballs like her cry over simple scratches. Talk, talk! Ga-yul flees the scene while Soya watches his hasty retreat with wide, confused eyes. Soya wonders if the young master's sudden anger stems from the embarrassment of his accidental trip. A look of guilt and worry washes over the girl as she contemplates the boy's reaction. High above the sprawling white tiger estate, a voice calls out to locate the young lady. Yanjang and Namsuri arrived, scolding Yul for leaving Soya alone as the girl looks on surprised. Gently taking Soya's hand, Yanjang suggests they return to a room as the girl quietly agrees. Soya follows her attendants but glances back toward the building where the young master had hidden. Soya's red eyes widen in surprise as she reacts to a sudden piece of unexpected news. Above the elegant palace rooftops, the attendant begins to explain the youngest young master's frequent mishaps. The attendants laugh, reassuring Soya that the boy trips often, but she remains unconvinced and pensive. Yanjang insists that her words are true, trying to ease the white-haired girl's lingering concern. The woman playfully mimics a beast, declaring that the youngest young master is a sturdy white tiger. Soya stares ahead with a skeptical expression, her mind still focused on the boy's bleeding knee. Talk, talk. In a private room, Ga-yul screams as Namsuri applies medicine to his wounded leg. Namsuri scolds the dramatic boy, reminding him that he should have waited for help instead of running. Gayul pouts, determined not to show any weakness to the girl he calls a little fluff ball. Really? Namsuri wonders if Soya is a mouse, but Gayul argues she's far too quiet for that. Soya appears in a vision wearing yellow robes while holding a small, trembling white puppy. Gayul throws his hands up in a panic as he continues to speculate about Soya's nature. Namsuri notes that puppy beasts are healthy, leaving the boy to wonder what kind of creature Soya is. Visions of a sleeping deer and a hedgehog appear as they eliminate more possible beast identities. Peeking through the garden leaves, Gayul wonders if Soya truly belongs to the powerful Western clans. Baeksayeon listens as he's told his youngest son has been following Soya all day long. Baeksan laughs, noting Yul's interest, while Yenjong urges him to discipline the persistent boy. A steady hand dips a calligraphy brush into dark ink, preparing to write on a scroll. Baeksayeon looks up with a serene and confident smile, unaffected by the attendant's earlier request. Multiple perspectives show the estate's residents watching one another through the ornate golden palace screens. Yeonjung breaks into a cold sweat while Baeksayeon continues to radiate a satisfied, cheerful aura. The attendant asks if Soya is his secret illegitimate child, much to the white-haired man's horror. Baeksayeon's face contorts in total shock as he processes the scandalous accusation from his servant. Narration notes the suspicious nature of a man returning from the prince with a mysterious young girl. Flashback. Baeksayeon carries Soya through the palace, denying any blood relation to the unconscious child. Baeksan firmly dismisses the idea of an illegitimate child as a completely ridiculous and false misunderstanding. Yeonjong questions Soya's true origins if she wasn't simply found by chance on the city streets. Sion struggles to find a way to explain the truth behind how he actually obtained Soya. He realizes that he cannot easily admit he found the girl by chance and stole her away. The white-haired warrior touches his chin, deep in thought about the secret mission from the palace. Flashback, the blonde prince orders Sa'an to steal the most precious treasure from the southern lands. The prince commands him to travel south and retrieve the Vermilion Bird clan's most valuable possession. In exchange for the mission, the prince promises to provide the legendary and rare dragon's blood herb. Narration explains the herb only blooms during coronations, making Sa'an doubt the prince's authority to give it. The blonde-haired prince gives a solemn word promising the herb will be delivered within the year. Seon observes the prince's intense green eyes, noting a look he had never seen there before. A white-haired girl with bright blue eyes works diligently at a desk, focused on her writing. A floating speech bubble asks for clarification on what exactly needs to be retrieved for the mission. Seon kneels before a figure who speaks of a treasure whose value is unrecognized by most. Seon considers the possibility of stealing the precious treasure for himself instead of completing the mission. The mysterious figure emphasizes the treasure must be kept safe, referencing the girl stolen from the south. Back in the present, Seon sits in deep thought, his hand resting thoughtfully against his chin. Yeonjong questions Seon about his plans to adopt Soya, but he initially denies having any such intention. Seon remains quiet and serious as he listens to his attendant's concerns regarding the young girl's future. Seon considers adoption, but Yeonjong realizes his change of heart and immediately calls him out on it. Yeonjong argues that a representative for the clan needs more than just a pretty and cute face. Seon wonders aloud if there is truly a rule restricting the clan to only one young lady. Yeonjung firmly asserts that such a rule exists, shouting her response with total conviction to her lord. Narrative thoughts suggest that housing two girls would lead to inevitable comparisons and potential emotional harm. A vision depicts a lonely Soya being overshadowed by a more prominent candidate, highlighting the attendant's worries. Yeonjong suggests Soya would be happier being adopted into a lesser clan better suited for her needs. Sion accuses her of being cold-hearted, asking if she lacks concern for the child, which she denies. Namsori rushes into the room, interrupting the argument as Sion and Yeonjong look up in surprise. San asks for an explanation for the sudden intrusion as the blue-haired attendant catches her breath. Namsuri appears deeply troubled and flustered, struggling to find the words to report the newest development. Soya sits alone on a large rock in the garden, her head nodding as she fights sleep. Gayul watches Soya through a telescope, noting her frailty and recalling how she collapsed on her arrival. Namsuri scolds the young master for slacking on his training, but he tells her to leave him alone. Gayul observes Soya from afar, worried she might faint if he startles her due to her fragility. Gayul worries a breeze might blow Soya over, while Namsuri mocks him for his own recent trip. Soya suddenly loses her balance on the rock, her body tilting as she begins to fall over. Gayul reacts with wide-eyed shock and a loud gasp as he sees the small girl collapse. Gayul and Namsuri rush to the scene, panicked and calling out for Soya, only to find her gone. The two children stand near the empty rock, confused and wondering where the fluff ball has vanished to. Gayul spots something small in the grass and stares at it with a look of pure disbelief. A small white bird lies motionless on the green grass right where Soya had been moments before. Namsuri gushes over the adorable bird, convinced that the tiny creature is actually the young girl herself. Gayul gently picks up the sleeping bird, noticing how tired the little creature seems to be. Gayul gazes at the bird in his hands with a look of sudden, intense realization and shock. Namsuri suggests calling a physician, but Gayul realizes the issue isn't a physical illness for the bird. A close-up reveals the tiny, delicate feet of the white bird as it rests in the boy's palm. Gayul barges into a room, shouting for Aunt Sarah to help him save the mysterious little bird. Sara, the palace priestess, identifies the intruder as Sa-on's youngest son and questions his sudden presence. Ga-yul begs for help while Sarah wonders why Sion brought home a winged creature instead of a beast. Ga-yul reports the bird's strange breathing as Sarah prepares to examine the tiny fluff ball in his hands. Sarah reaches out to the bird held by Ga-yul, her expression shifting as she begins her assessment. Sarah's eye widens in sheer shock as she discovers the true nature of the small white creature. Urgency fills the room as Sarah orders Namsuri to fetch Sion immediately following her startling discovery. The scene shifts to quiet blue leaves shimmering in the moonlight as the evening air turns cold. A towering pagoda stands against the dark night sky, overlooking the silent and vast White Tiger estate. From a high balcony, two figures look out over a moonlit pond filled with blooming lotus flowers. Yenjang turns around and asks for an update on what has happened to the white-haired girl, Soya. A masked man delivers the grim news that Soya is dead, causing Yenjang to freeze in shock. The report continues, stating that an item was recovered from the location where Soya's traces were last seen. Yenjang stares down at a small pouch in her hands, her face pale with grief and disbelief. A somber vision shows a memorial as the attendant processes the news of the child's presumed death. Yenjang admits she only wanted Soya removed from Riri's sight, never intending her death. She justifies her actions by noting how the small child's presence made Riri deeply unhappy. The woman cold-heartedly assumes that even if Soya survives, she would likely perish very soon. A heavy silence falls as Yenjang looks down with a deeply troubled expression. Soya lies motionless on a table, her fragile form lost in a deep, unnatural sleep. Sarah explains that the young girl's spirit core has been severely and deliberately damaged by someone. Seon notes he never saw the girl's beast form, making it impossible to detect the injury. Sarah delivers a grim report, stating the child's spirit core was intentionally destroyed by a malicious hand. The group processes the horrifying truth behind the small girl's fragile state in a heavy silence. Sarah clarifies that the missing spirit core is the reason for the child's exceptionally small body. Narration reveals that stripping a core is a punishment reserved only for the most heinous criminals. A looming structure stands silently as the narration ponders the dark implications of the core's destruction. The head of the Vermilion Bird clan, Jiok Ayun, is identified as a potential culprit. Sion wonders why a man known for his righteousness would commit such a cruel, heartless act. Sarah clarifies that the core wasn't merely stolen, it was shattered with the clear intent to harm. Seon grows furious, remembering Yenjang's earlier report while staring at the unconscious white-haired girl. An attendant looks on with concern, her mind returning to the shocking discovery she made earlier. The brown-haired woman reveals that Soya's body was covered in scars when she was being bathed. A look of hesitation crosses the woman's face as the extent of Soya's suffering unfolds. Sion resolves to send an investigator to the south to uncover the truth of Soya's origins. Sarah provides hope, stating Soya should recover soon if she receives plenty of food and rest. However, she warns that the fundamental issue remains unsolved without proper treatment for the core. Sarah states that the only way to perfectly heal a damaged spirit core is extremely difficult. A vision of the rare dragon blood herb appears, shimmering as the girl's only chance for survival. Ga-yul watches Soya with wide, anxious eyes, his face reflecting his deep worry for her. Soya groans as she finally wakes up, causing Ga-yul to shout for joy. Sion and Ga-yul rush to her side, frantically asking if she is in any physical pain. Soya wakes up confused, vaguely remembering drifting off while sunbathing on a garden rock. Panicked, the girl apologizes, fearing she has caused trouble and made her hosts angry. Soya hangs her head in shame, sadly whispering that she truly is a bad baby bird. Seon's voice breaks her despair, firmly rejecting her claims of being a burden to them. Swish, the white-haired man places a gentle, comforting hand on Soya's head, smiling kindly at her. Sniff! Overwhelmed by the warm gestures, Soya begins to cry as she experiences genuine kindness. Ga-yul panics, accusing his father of making Soya cry while Seon looks completely stunned. Soya tries to cover her tears with a lie, claiming that she was simply having a yawn. Bright flowers frame the scene as Soya tries to prove she is not actually crying. Soya forces a massive yawn, squeezing her eyes shut as she tries to hide her sadness. Seon's expression softens as he watches the small girl's clumsy attempt to hide her true emotions. He plays along with her ruse, noting that she must be quite sleepy to yawn so widely. Sarah observes the interaction with a stoic face, though her eyes remain fixed on the girl. The white-haired priestess remains focused on Soya, her sharp eyes searching for any hidden truths. Sarah addresses Soya as the baby bird cotton ball, requesting a private moment for a chat. Seon tries to protect Soya's rest, but Sarah insists on the discussion, telling him to leave. Ga-yul gasps in shock, hilariously misinterpreting Sarah's words and fearing she plans to eat Soya. Sarah's face contorts with annoyance as the boy and Sion continue their dramatic protective reactions. Whoosh! Frustrated by the noise, Sarah kicks everyone out of the shrine so she can talk alone. Seon looks back with a worried glance as he is forced to leave the girl's side. Sarah informs Soya about her non-functioning core, triggering a dark memory within the young girl. Soya has a terrifying vision of a person named Brother Hwayu from her painful past. A dark realization hits Soya as she identifies the one who stole her spirit core away. Soya recalls Brother Hwayu's cruelty, wondering if he hated her enough to destroy her spirit core. Tears fall onto her clenched hands as the weight of the betrayal sinks in. The white-haired girl sits in silence, her eyes welling with tears of profound sadness. Bake Sara sighs, admitting her lack of skill when it comes to comforting children. The priestess introduces herself as Bake Sara, the divine maiden of the White Tiger Palace. Sarah mentions the room is soundproofed, leaving the young girl confused by the odd detail.
Sarah encourages her to cry loudly, contrasting Soya's memory of being scolded for her tears.
Soya hunches over, struggling to process the kindness of being allowed to express her grief. Sarah asks if she is waiting for a hug, causing the girl to react with surprise. The priestess pulls the small child into a gentle, silent embrace. A comforting hand pats Soya's back as she begins to let out a quiet sob. Sonya finally breaks down, her muffled cries echoing as she clings to the woman's robe. A loud wail escapes the girl as she finally releases all her bottled-up sorrow. Sarah continues to hold the weeping child, providing a rare and safe space for her. The white-haired woman looks down with a calm, sympathetic gaze at the child she protects. Soya's sobs continue unabated, her tiny hands gripping the blue fabric of Sarah's dress. Namsuri and the brown-haired attendant apologize profusely for failing to stay by Soya's side. They insist on holding her hands everywhere, startling Soya with their intense and sudden devotion. Surrounded by flowers, Soya holds hands with her attendants and smiles with genuine happiness. Soya asks the silver-haired boy if it is time for him to go to training. Dagon blushes furiously, scolding her for being fragile enough to collapse and causing him worry. He claims that as the clan's third son, he has decided to especially protect her. The boy stammers while trying to justify why he is lingering around the young lady. Soya asks why he specifically chose her, making the boy's face turn a bright red. Dagon lets out a frustrated shout, his composure crumbling under her innocent and direct gaze. He claims his presence is necessary because he is worried she might run into ghosts. Soya reacts with terror as he describes a pavilion ghost that snatches away small children. Internally, Dagon panics, realizing he almost blurted out how cute he thinks the girl is. The attendants realize the boy is making up ghost stories to hide his true feelings. Dagon recalls the moment he held Soya's tiny bird form in the palm of his hips. He remembers the small creature having fluffy wings and being no larger than his palm. The memory of the sick but incredibly cute little bird fills his mind with warmth. Dagon stares at his open palms, still moved by how fragile the girl appeared before. Soya asks if the ghosts are dangerous for him too, expressing her sincere worry for him. The silver-haired boy is caught completely off guard by the girl's genuine concern for his safety. Soya looks up with teary eyes as the boy tries to regain his confident posture. He boastfully declares that as a white tiger, he isn't afraid of ghosts or anything else. Dagon asks if she has ever seen a real tiger, comparing them to picture book illustrations. He offers to show her his majestic beast form since she seems so impressed by tigers. Soya watches with wide, expectant eyes as the boy prepares to undergo his transformation. A sudden cloud of smoke fills the room as the boy begins to shift forms. A small striped tiger ear twitches as it emerges from the dissipating white smoke. A fluffy white tiger paw steps forward onto the stone floor with a soft thud. An adorable white tiger cub appears, causing Soya to marvel at his small, cute form. Soya is captivated by the cub's pink paw pads, noting how squishy and amazing they look. Namsuri and the attendant gush over the cub, remarking on how soft his white fur feels. The attendants leave to get drinks, encouraging the two children to have fun playing together. The little white tiger cub lets out a roar, demanding Soya show her beastkin form. The cub waits eagerly for Soya to transform, unaware of the trauma surrounding her core. Soya freezes in shock, her face pale as she is asked to do the impossible. Fluffball, the white tiger cub, worries about looking cool for the white-haired girl. A realization dawns that the girl's innocent demeanor might eventually lead to tears. Soya gazes downward with shimmering, tear-filled eyes, reflecting a hidden sense of deep sorrow. She contemplates her beastkin form, fearing that he will find it repulsive if revealed. A painful memory surfaces of others judging a small white bird with mocking gestures. A simple brown ball rolls across the stone courtyard with a rhythmic rolling sound. Soya's wide, ruby-colored eyes fixate on the object as she wonders what it is. Yule, the tiger cub, eagerly invites the girl he calls Fluffball to play ball. Excited by the prospect of play, Yule urges her to hurry up and throw. The young girl grips the ball tightly, prepared to engage in the cub's game. A happy, high-pitched laugh rings out as Soya and Yule play together outside the pavilion. From a window above, the silver-haired young master watches Yule's play with visible disapproval. Hyunjin, head of the Red Fox clan, approaches the young master to ask what he sees. The young master criticizes Yule's lack of training, noting he is still a mere baby. Hyungjina notes the boy's cold words and worries the girl might collapse from exhaustion. The silver-haired boy assumes Soya is only playing because she cannot say no to Yule. He dismisses the idea of worrying about Soya, claiming she cannot even care for herself. Turning his attention away, the young master mentions the imminent arrival of the branch families. A legendary blue sword stands tall before a mountain palace, heralding the Mountain Lord Festival. Families gather in anticipation, as the festival results will determine who resides in the pavilion. The young master contemplates the potential competitors, starting with Lady Orang of the Brown Tigers. Lady Orang stands confidently alongside her brown tiger cub amidst a backdrop of blooming flowers. Lady Gaia expresses her obsession with the older brother, much to her clan's potential embarrassment. The young master rejects every candidate, prompting Hyunjina to ask what he actually desires. He looks out at the courtyard, considering the requirements for a potential younger sister. Soya's genuine radiant smile lights up the grassy field as she enjoys her brief freedom. Lady Yenjang offers a water gourd to Soya, who admits to feeling quite dizzy. Yenjang explains that Yule was taken to training as Soya drinks thirstily from the gourd. Soya's face flushes as she insists that playing with the young master was really fun. Sitting on the steps, Soya asks if rumors about ghosts in the pavilion are true. When asked if she is frightened, Soya quickly clarifies that her concern lies elsewhere. She imagines herself bravely shielding the young masters from a terrifying red-eyed shadowy apparition. Soya resolves to protect the small cute tigers, feeling a sudden sense of maternal responsibility. Lady Yenjong laughs, assuring her that the clan will be delighted by her protective spirit.
Overjoyed by the encouragement, Soya beams with a look of pure, unadulterated happiness.
Clinging to her gourd, she quietly confesses that ghosts are still a little bit scary. Shadowed figures look on in shock, finding her bold claim of protection to be utterly shameless. Undeterred by their judgment, Soya clenches her small fists with a new, determined resolve. A brilliant full moon hangs over the silent rooftops of the traditional mountain estate. A white-haired man winces in pain, clutching his chest as a sharp pang strikes. He recalls a traumatic day, feeling his chest grow heavy whenever the full moon rises. The man collapses onto the battlefield, his body failing as a sword rests nearby. Blood spills from his lips as he struggles to breathe amidst the rising smoke. Surrounded by fire and ruins, the warrior grits his teeth while holding a glowing sphere. Despite his grievous wounds, the white-haired man refuses to let go of his precious burden. Soya sleeps peacefully, cradling the glowing blue orb that has helped restore her strength. A realization settles that her spiritual core remains damaged, leaving the underlying problem unresolved. A hand grips a scroll tightly, acknowledging that only one perfect cure exists. The text reveals the name of the legendary medicinal plant, the dragon blood herb. A vibrant red flower blooms atop thick gray scales, marking the location of the herb. A narrative text box notes that the prince has remained silent since promising the herb. Lord San worries the silent prince might be planning a bloodbath within the imperial palace. Clutching his head in exhaustion, Lord Sion decides to rest for just a brief moment. Moonlight shines through a large, ornate window, casting a cool blue glow across the room. A pair of small white feet tiptoe quietly across the dark floorboards of the office. Lord Seon remains slumped over his desk, having finally drifted into a deep, silent sleep. Soya stands nervously beside the sleeping master, her red eyes wide with a mix of concern. Hours earlier, Lady Yinjong encourages Soya, saying the clan will be thrilled by her protection. The young girl beams with a hopeful smile while holding her small brown water gourd. Soya tentatively holds out a dirty white handkerchief, offering it to the nearby household staff. A green-haired maid snatches the cloth away, calling it gross and demanding she hand it over. The cruel maids mock Soya, wondering why ghosts haven't dragged away such a wicked brat. A thought bubble emphasizes their spiteful claim that even ghosts find the girl too filthy. Soya stands alone in the dark, her face dirty and her expression filled with profound sadness. She recalls people burning her belongings, claiming even spirits would shudder at what she touched. A somber silence follows as the weight of those painful childhood memories lingers in the air. Soya resolves to leave her things near the masters to ward off any threatening ghosts. Looking at her empty hands, the young girl sadly realizes that she owns nothing of value. She remembers losing her festival pouch and breaking the bead bracelet given her by Huayu. Soya looks down in despair, feeling helpless without any personal items to use as charms. A wave of intense frustration and embarrassment washes over the girl as she clenches her fists. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Grand Mountain Pavilion under a starry night sky. Soya looks around the dark estate grounds, searching for something to use for her protective plan. Her eyes light up as she spots something useful near a cluster of bright purple flowers. 3 smooth gray pebbles shimmer on the ground, presented as if they were precious treasures. Soya happily picks up the stones, noting they look quite nice once they are wiped clean. She hopes the pebbles she touched will act as powerful charms to keep ghosts away. With her hands clasped, the girl prays fervently for the pebbles to protect the 2 masters. Peeking through a sliding door, Soya admits to herself that the dark hallway is quite scary. Yanjong finds Soya at the door and asks why she is still awake past her bedtime. Soya flushes with shyness as she tries to explain her presence outside the patriarch's office. Yanjong leads the way with a lantern, explaining that the patriarch often works late into night. She smiles while imagining the master's delighted reaction to receiving a talisman from the little girl. A red-haired man asks Soya if she is visiting to thank the patriarch again today. Soya clarifies she is there for a different reason, holding out a small, tied blue pouch. The man examines one of the pebbles as Yanjong watches the young girl's sincere gesture. He playfully asks for a talisman too, claiming to be super-duper scared of ghosts himself. Soya promises to make a talisman for him, leading to a friendly agreement between the two. Beaming with happiness, Soya looks up with a bright, blushing face after making her promise. Yanjong protests, calling the man a sly old fox and demanding her talisman be made first. The siblings bicker over the talismans while Soya watches, confused by their sudden competitive energy. Finally ending the delay, Yanjong tells the girl to go inside and deliver the master's gift. Yanjong encourages Soya to enter the office alone this time, and the girl bravely agrees. Moonlight streams into the silent office, highlighting the mountain painting on the wall above. Soya steps into the room, whispering to herself that she has reached Lord Seon's office. Seeing the silver-haired master asleep at his desk, she notes how truly tired he looks. Deciding not to disturb him, Soya turns to tiptoe away as quietly as she possibly can. A sudden pained wince from the sleeping Lord Seon startles Soya, causing her to gasp. A loud crashing sound echoes through the silent room as Soya trips and falls painfully. Soya looks up from the floor, startled to see Lord Seon slumping forward in his chair. Soya cries out in panic, her ruby eyes filled with tears as she wonders what to do. Seeing the master slumped over, Soya fears a ghost has already managed to capture him. Soya clasps her hands together, pleading with the ghosts not to bully the sleeping Lord Seon. The pouch in her hands begins to glow with a sudden and intense pink light. Staring at the shimmering light between her palms, the young girl reacts with a surprised gasp. A recruitment notice for Korean translators appears against a dark and patterned purple background. A sudden, powerful burst of energy erupts from her hands with a loud fwa sound. Soya stares in awe as the radiant light washes over her tiny, fragile frame. She wonders if she imagined the light as the room returns to its usual quiet state. The blue pouch sparkles as if imbued with a magical and protective energy. Soya peers around the furniture, her large ruby eyes filled with intense curiosity. Lord Seon rests with a serene expression amidst the soft morning light. Soya excitedly tells Yanjong that the talisman worked and chased away the ghost bullying the master. Yanjong is relieved by Soya's happiness while the girl promises to make her a talisman too. Yanjong thanks her and suggests she rest, but suddenly notices blood on the young girl's hand. The maid points out the injury, and Soya realizes her palm is indeed bleeding quite heavily. Soya admits her injury likely happened when she fell in the office earlier that evening. Yanjong insists Soya return to her room to apply medicine to her wound right away. A text box announces the arrival of the following day over lush greenery. Seon stretches and lets out a long, satisfied sound as he wakes up feeling strange. He contemplates how he slept so well despite it being a night of strong negative energy. The red-haired man notes Sion's habit of overworking while the master admits he fell asleep again. Lord Seon's blue eyes widen slightly as a curious thought occurs to him. Seon asks about rumors of ghosts while the red-haired man begins to explain the recent events. The red-haired man provides Sion with a report along with his morning tea. Hearing the details, Sion laughs and notes that young Master Yule is a terrible liar. Holding a pebble, Seon wonders if Soya truly tried to protect him with her tiny body. Sion watches Soya through the garden, finding her genuine and protective spirit to be deeply commendable. The two men discuss Soya's welfare while Sion holds the small, smooth stone. Seon considers gifting Soya a royal sword, but the man mourns it as an inappropriate gift. Yanjong suggests dainty gifts, but Sion argues that girls can also appreciate fine, sharp swords. Yanjong shouts in disbelief over the dangerous suggestion while Seon looks away and lets out a sighing of. Seon quickly changes his mind, resolving that Soya must never be put in any danger whatsoever. Lord Seon remains determined to find a gift that will bring Soya joy. A steaming bowl of dark medicinal decoction is prepared with various herbal ingredients. Soya looks down at the medicine with a determined yet slightly hesitant expression. Soya takes a deep breath and begins drinking the bitter medicine without hesitation. Yanjong marvels at how gentle and obedient Soya is compared to the young master's difficult behavior. Soya's face scrunches as she finishes with a sputtering fu-hat sound while Yanjong cheers for her. Yanjong rewards Soya's courage with a sweet candy to help wash away the medicine's bitter taste. Soya opens her mouth with an eager ah sound as her caretaker offers the tiny treat. Soya's ruby eyes sparkle with anticipation and delight at the prospect of sweetness. Lord Seon holds the small girl close in a rare moment of tenderness. A rhythmic knock on the sliding door breaks the quiet atmosphere of the room. Soya looks toward the entrance with surprise, recognizing the voice of the person standing outside. Yanjong presents a large wooden box, explaining it is a reward from the master for the talisman. Soya leans forward, her curiosity piqued by the mysterious package sitting before her. Soya lets out a delighted wah sound at the white tiger plushie sent to protect her. The staff encourages the girl to hug the soft doll, confirming it is a personal gift. Soya tearfully hugs the fluffy white tiger, overwhelmed by the comfort and kindness she has received. The red-haired man firmly denies a request while Soya clings to her new white tiger plushie. Soya beams with pure delight as she tightly hugs the soft white tiger doll she received. Yanjong and the red-haired man watch the little girl with a mixture of surprise and concern. Sunlight gleams over the crimson rooftops of the grand multi-tiered vermilion bird palace under a clear sky. In a past memory, the red-haired man notes that the bright orange flowers look just like Soya. Thinking back, the man feels relieved that Soya recovered her spirit so quickly after the recent incident. A heavy rhythmic tap sounds as the red-haired man follows the children through the palace garden. Riri approaches the red-haired man, calling him father and asking for a brief moment of his time. A sudden and chilling floating notification announces the shocking claim that the white-haired child is actually dead. The man reacts with utter confusion and disbelief while Riri stands before his desk in his office. He recalls a failed mission where a warrior found only bloodstains instead of the missing white-haired child. A hand places a small brown fabric pouch on a table, identifying it as an item found nearby. The man remembers tying that pouch onto Soya and promising she would become a great firebird one day. He explains that his own feather inside the pouch acts as a powerful charm to protect her. The father offers a warm, loving smile while reassuring his young daughter about her future and safety. A magical notification confirms that despite his worries, Soya successfully completed her beast transformation into a bird. A tiny, round, and incredibly fluffy white bird chirps happily while floating amidst a cloud of feathers. The transformation process concludes, turning the young girl into a bird as white as pure, fresh snow. In the present, the grieving man weeps before a portrait, regretting the tragic outcome of her transformation. A hand trembles while holding the single, vibrant orange feather that was once given to Soya. He realizes Soya has cherished his feather all this time, leading to a sudden surge of realization. Slamming his hand down, he orders an immediate search for the child despite Riri's desperate protests. A voice reminds the man of his own claim that nobody was found at the scene. Riri argues that Soya's damaged spirit core would prevent her from living a long life, even if alive. The man is struck speechless by the revelation of her internal injuries, his golden eye wide with shock. He demands a corpse as proof, refusing to believe in her death without seeing the body himself. An oppressive darkness lingers as the heavy weight of her supposed death hangs in the silent air. In a lighter moment, Yul excitedly shows off the protective talisman he received from his friend Soya. Ga-hyun looks skeptically at the plain gray stone while Yul insists it is a real protective charm. Dismissing the idea of ghosts as nonsense, Ga-hyun listens as Yul explains Soya's desire to protect him. A sudden realization hits Ga-hyun as he remembers Soya visiting his own room during the previous night. A quick clack sounds as Soya stealthily slides open the door to Ga-hyun's moonlit bedroom. While Ga-hyun sleeps soundly, the young girl carefully places a protective pebble on his wooden desk. Ga-hyun wakes up and spots the intruder, wondering why Soya is sneaking into his room at night. He stares intently at the small, smooth rock, questioning the meaning behind such a strange, silent gift. Feeling insulted by the seemingly worthless stone, Ga-hyun wonders if this is meant as a cruel joke. The pebble lies discarded at the bottom of a trash bin among piles of crumpled white paper. Yul praises Soya's cute beast mode, while Ga-hyun maintains a stoic and silent expression as they walk. The young boy wonders aloud why Soya is so terrified of using her adorable animal transformation. Yul hilariously speculates she fears being kidnapped due to her cuteness, leaving Ga-hyun completely speechless. A sudden thud sounds as the panicked boy runs directly into Ga-hyun's back while lost in thought. Yul rubs his face in pain while a voice from behind asks why he has stopped walking. The training master arrives with a staff, causing Yul to tremble in fear of his impending lesson. Ga-hyun heartlessly hands his brother over to the master, who thanks him for the helpful assist. Dragging him away, the master laughs while Yul screams that Ga-hyun is no longer his beloved brother. Ga-hyun stands alone on the training grounds, looking somewhat conflicted about betraying his younger brother's trust. The grand rooftops of the palace stand tall against a clear blue sky as a bird flies. Soya searches through the vibrant blue hydrangeas, determined to find a pretty rock for her next charm. Her caretakers suggest a fun game of finding pebbles to help the young girl gather more talismans. Soya feels a surge of motivation, hoping to find enough pretty stones to make 3 powerful charms. Soya searches through the vibrant blue hydrangeas for rocks while the young master approaches from behind. Soya gasps as she realizes the young master is watching her search for talisman stones. Soya politely greets the young master while he comments on her activity in the palace garden. Soya asks the master about his night while wondering if his protective talisman worked effectively. Soya is stunned when the silver-haired boy calls her protective stone talisman a bothersome and annoying prank. The young master notes that her simple gift appeared disrespectful from a noble's perspective. Dismissing Soya, the master strictly forbids her from entering his room without permission again. Soya bows deeply and apologizes sincerely to the young master for her unannounced nighttime visit. The silver-haired master walks away, leaving a dejected Soya standing alone among the blooming hydrangeas. Soya resolves to create a far superior talisman for the young master to prove her sincerity. A playful white tiger cub jumps amidst a field of flowers in a stylized background illustration. Soya feels conflicted about giving away a special gift originally received from Lord Siam. Soya is suddenly startled by a noise coming from the garden bushes near the palace wall. A gate opens to reveal the palace exterior as a guest palanquin arrives for the festival. Soya spots the arrival of the palanquin and curiously wonders who the arriving guest might be. A celebratory message announces Soya as the winner of the day's game amidst beautiful flowers. The group gathers in a decorated room while Yul asks to join Soya in her search. A caretaker offers a prize of pretty rocks to Soya for winning the flower garden game. Soya asks with surprise if the beautiful rocks are truly her prize for winning. Yul triumphantly boasts that the stones he found are the best and most beautiful in the collection. A cheerful voice highlights that the stone Soya found is the most beautiful of them all. Soya gazes at her new treasure with a blush, her heart filled with genuine, innocent joy. Soya clutches her chest, wondering why her heart feels so fluttering and full of excitement. Soya points at the various cans and asks Yenjong to explain their purpose to her. Yenjong explains that the ceramic paint can be used to decorate and bake the gift rocks. Soya smiles brightly, certain that the young master will appreciate a specially painted, handmade protective stone. A sudden aha sounds as the maid notes the arrival of guests from the branch families. Yenjong mentions the upcoming Mountain Lord Festival while bringing refreshments to the children in the room. She explains that young tigers gather to compete for the prestigious title of the Mountain Lord. Soya begins painting a rock with focused determination, hoping to finish her special gift soon. Soya notes that the festival guests are all tigers, unlike her own unique white fur. Yanjong observes the painting while Soya plans to give protective gifts to all the festival guests. Soya looks at a pebble featuring a tiger painting and resolves to protect all the guests. Two smooth rocks rest together, featuring cute tiger paintings to celebrate the upcoming clan festival. Seon looks thoughtful while noting that no one truly knows Soya's real family name yet. Seon discusses Soya's mysterious origin and the possibility of her being a hidden clan child. Seon remains deep in thought, considering the implications of Soya's presence within the hidden estate. He wonders aloud if the red-haired warrior actually has a secret young daughter living nearby. Standing before the window, Seon questions Yakyong about the existence of his hidden young daughter. The red-haired warrior reacts with surprise while rejecting the suggestion about having a secret young daughter. A vision of Riri appears as Jaekyong explains his daughter's status and her recent transformation. He recalls Soya's encounter with the assassin and theorizes she might be a young clan attendant. Seon addresses Jaekyong with an ominous tone that causes the red-haired warrior to pause briefly.
Seon finds Soya's thank you letter for the tiger plushie to be heartwarming and adorable.
Jaekyong firmly rejects a request, his eyes closed as he maintains a professional, strict stance. Seon argues that despite her beautiful writing script, Soya is a bird and not a tiger. Jokyong presents a scroll urging Seon to review branch family reports before the festival begins. Yeonjung points out the dust on the reports, teasing Seon for being preoccupied with Soya. The red-haired warrior reminds the master to decide Soya's permanent living arrangements before the festival ends. A cheerful voice announces that the little white-haired girl has arrived to visit the master. A silver-haired man in a blue robe offers a gentle and welcoming smile. Lord Seon warmly welcomes Soya as she enters the room carrying a small wicker basket. The white-haired girl looks up with an expression of mild uncertainty and quiet anticipation. Looking down toward the floor, the silver-haired master takes notice of the small basket. Jaekyong greets the young girl with a cheerful nickname as she approaches the two men. A small smooth stone features a charming painting of a red fox on its surface. Seon watches jealously while the warrior thanks Soya for the gift, calling him a fox. The silver-haired man looks expectantly at Soya, waiting to see if he receives a gift. The young girl confirms, "I'm just a language model and can't help with that." Soya beams with pride while presenting a stone painted with a round white tiger cub. Lord Seon is momentarily stunned into silence, a subtle blush coloring his handsome features. Kneeling before her, the man wonders why she went through the effort of making a gift. He pauses his speech, his blue eye widening slightly with a flicker of sudden confusion. Holding the pebble, Seon questions why his gift appears to be a picture of a cat. Soya nervously fidgets with her fingers while clarifying that the drawing is actually a tiger. Jaekyong laughs heartily, noting the resemblance, while the master stares in purple-tinted shock. The warrior teases the master's vision until Seon reluctantly agrees it is indeed a tiger. Gazing off to the side, the silver-haired lord falls into a moment of calm, quiet reflection. A radiant and heartfelt smile spreads across Seon's face as he looks back at Soya. Soya looks up curiously, wondering if her frequent visits are truly helpful to the master. Yeonjong claims her presence brightens the office despite Soya's worry about her unawakened beastkin abilities. A floral backdrop accompanies an explanation of how clever young beasts can help others with innate energy. Soya stares with wide, surprised eyes as the maid suggests she possesses this special innate power. The ornate architecture of the palace interior gleams under the warm, golden afternoon light. Walking through the hall, Soya hopes the second young master appreciates his handmade protective charm. The young girl stops in her tracks, her attention captured by someone standing in the corridor. An accusing finger points directly at Soya from across the wide and highly decorated room. A brown-haired girl in a green dress demands to know Soya's identity with aggressive curiosity. Orang of the Brown Tiger clan skeptically observes that Soya does not resemble a tiger at all. Soya bows politely to Orang and explains that Lord Seon was the one who brought her. Orang realizes Soya is the one occupying the West End room, leaving Soya completely bewildered. Soya wonders if the girl standing before her is the prestigious young lady of her clan. Orang explains her father told her about the traditions regarding the upcoming Mountain King festival. A vision depicts the legend that the festival winner claims the room and title of young lady. Soya realizes why a girl's room exists in a palace populated only by young masters. Overwhelmed by the news, Soya frantically denies being the true owner of the West End room. Arang questions if Soya is trying to replace Yoon Seo, noting her lack of beastly presence. A sudden shadow falls over Soya as she is struck by a wave of painful memories. Cruel voices from the past haunt Soya, calling her a loathsome fake who stole a place. The small basket falls and spills its contents as Soya is consumed by a panic attack. Desperate thoughts fill her mind as she insists she never intended to steal anyone's rightful place. Soya gasps for breath, her face flushed and her eyes trembling with intense fear and sorrow. Orang looks on with confusion and concern, wondering if the white-haired girl has suddenly fallen ill. Yoon Seo of the Silver Tiger clan arrives, sharply questioning Orang's behavior toward the smaller child. The silver-haired girl expresses her deep disappointment in Orang for seemingly bullying a non-tiger child. Panicked by the accusation, Orang desperately tries to explain that she was not bullying anyone. Soya weakly interjects, defending Orang by stating she simply does not feel very well right now. Orang notes Soya's pale complexion while feeling awkward under the older girl's stern, judgmental gaze. Orang shouts a defensive warning while Eun Seo steps forward to check on Soya's well-being. Bowing respectfully, Soya thanks them for their concern while reiterating that no bullying took place. CEO of the Silver Tiger clan introduces herself and offers help to the small, white-haired girl. Soya looks away thoughtfully, wondering why such a kind person would join the White Tiger clan. Inside the palace room, Seo holds Soya's hand while the white-haired girl smiles with quiet gratitude. Soya sits alone on the floor, a soft thud sounding as she ponders her uncertain future. Recalling Cyan's smile, Soya despairs over the thought of soon having to leave the palace. A smooth stone rests on a windowsill as a voice notes how strange the situation is. Ki-hyun gazes out the window, noting that he has not seen the white-haired girl recently. Ki-hyun blushes while realizing his excessive care for the stone he polished to catch her eye. Hojoka mentions an invitation for tea, while Ki-hyun suggests meeting with the other branch tiger clans. A chibi Hojoka happily explains that the stone talisman he carries was handmade by Soya. Holding the stone featuring a fox, the attendant notes she drew the picture and saved it. The young master wonders to himself if Soya actually likes Hojoka because she made him a gift. The silver-haired boy stares forward with a visible flush, looking increasingly irritated and jealous. Kiem claims he already has a stone, but the attendant notes this gift is brand new. Hojoka explains that Soya gifted hand-painted stones to everyone, causing Ki-hyun to react with sudden shock. A sharp grind sounds as the young master clenches his teeth in a fit of jealous rage. The attendant turns with a quick whoosh, startled by the young master's sudden and aggressive movement. Storming off with a clatter, Ki-hyun dismisses the suggestion that Soya simply forgot to give him one. Ki-hyun harshly claims he has no need for trashy stones while Soya looks on with wide eyes. Stopping mid-exit, the young master looks back through the doorway with an expression of regretful realization. Soya turns away with a quick movement, blushing as she offers a quiet and tearful apology. Reaching out toward the doorway, the silver-haired boy desperately calls for the girl to wait. A single thought bubble reflects the young master's deep regret for the cruel words he just spoke. Soya exhales a sigh of relief outside, glad she overheard their talk before upsetting him further. Soya hums thoughtfully, resolving to make the young master a talisman despite his apparent dislike for stones. A loud roar echoes as a voice shouts a refusal to acknowledge the brown tiger as kin. Soya stops to witness a brown tiger cub and a white tiger cub growling at each other. The cubs argue loudly about family status until Yule shouts back at the brown tiger's insults. The two tiger cubs turn with a huff, wondering who is interrupting their very important argument. Soya stares back at the two small beasts with a look of mild surprise and curiosity. The white tiger cub leaks forward with a bounce, joyfully asking what Soya is doing there. The brown tiger cub shouts an angry demand to know where the other cub is running off to. Soya gasps in surprise as the white tiger cub suddenly leaps through the air toward her. Yule scolds the brown tiger for almost hurting Soya, leaving the other cubs stunned and embarrassed. A soft rustle sounds as Soya reaches out, telling Orang that she does not need to worry. Soya pulls the brown tiger cub into a tight hug while Orang stammers a flustered denial. The brown tiger cub blushes intensely, shouting a flustered question about where Soya is touching him. Orang leaps away while shouting a warning, leaving Yule to mock him for running like a coward. A small giggle sounds from Soya as she watches the two cubs bicker with each other. Soya smiles, noting to herself that Lady Orang's personality seems to resemble the youngest young master. Soya laughs while Yule reacts with a look of absolute horror at being compared to Orang. The white-haired girl suddenly remembers something and tells the youngest master she has a question. Sitting by the pond, Soya asks what the silver-haired young master Kian might like as a gift. Yule sulks while recalling how his brother handed him over, while Soya asks if he is upset. Soya giggles behind her hands, thinking the sulking white tiger cub looks far too cute to soothe. Soya continues her plea for information about Ki-hyun's likes while Seo watches them from the shadows. The white tiger cub emits a low growl, his attention suddenly shifting to the nearby bushes. Yule leaps at the hidden spy with a roar, causing Seo to scream in sudden terror. The white tiger cub demands to know why the girl is spying on them from the bushes. Soya lifts the white tiger cub away while the silver-haired girl remains huddled on the ground. Soya holds the white tiger cub as thoughts reflect on the typical playful nature of tigers. A quick whimper sounds as Soya apologizes to the startled cub for her sudden movement. Standing in the courtyard, Soya instructs the cub to apologize to the sitting silver-haired girl. The cub offers a polite apology to the silver-haired girl, who graciously accepts his words. Seo mentions overhearing Soya's concerns about what the second young master might enjoy as gifts. Soya explains her desire to make a talisman despite the master's dislike for stones, sparking Yule's jealousy. Seo pauses in thought, considering what might truly please the young master instead of a stone. The silver-haired girl suggests the rare sky flower from the mountain, noting the master's love for flowers. Soya expresses her delight and gratitude to Seo for the helpful information about the master's hobbies. Soya resolves to seek permission from the lady and the lord for their mountain journey. A playful bounce sounds as the cub excitedly offers to lead the way up the mountain. As Soya prepares to leave, Seo calls out to her to wait for just a moment. Seo presents a beautiful scent sachet as a return gift for the talisman Soya gave her earlier. The cub urges Soya to hurry as they prepare to head back inside the palace together. Soya bids a final farewell to Lady Seo while walking away under the bright afternoon sun. Seo watches Soya depart with a lingering, unreadable expression on her face as the wind blows. The grand palace silhouette transitions under a darkening sky, marking the passage of the quiet day. Inside the dimly lit room, Soya sleeps peacefully while holding the small white tiger cub close. A soft snore sounds as another young boy sleeps soundly nearby under the cool moonlight.
Seon notes the young master's early start as the boy approaches the two men in the hall.
Lord Seon looks on with a gentle and warm gaze directed toward his young, white-haired son. The young master worries that his father won't return until very late if he leaves now. A gentle pat sounds as Seon comforts the boy, reassuring him before he sets out. The young master promises to guard the palace while his father and brother are away traveling.
An attendant observes that the young master seems happiest when spending time with the Lord recently. Seon expresses some doubt, noting the young master's growing fascination with Soya over his own father.
The Lord smiles thoughtfully, remarking that there are certain things only a parent can truly perceive. Memories of the children together flash by as the young master looks on with a blush. Soya and the white-haired boy stand together in the sun-drenched garden during a peaceful moment. A soft sigh of contentment escapes Seon as he reflects on his family's current happiness. Back in the present, Soya prepares herself at a dressing table surrounded by beautiful cherry blossoms. Yeonjong presents a special lunchbox featuring a rice tiger cub for Soya's upcoming trip to the mountain. A gasp of wonder escapes Soya as she stares at the incredibly detailed and cute meal. The brown-haired maid looks on with a mixture of deep affection and lingering maternal worry. A warm embrace follows as Yeonjong apologizes for not being able to accompany Soya on the trip. Narration explains the clan duties and scheduling conflicts that prevent the maid from joining the mountain expedition. Jack Young watches as the maid continues to fuss over Soya's preparation for the journey ahead. The blue-haired warrior explains the maid's concern while encouraging Soya to stay safe during the climb. Juk Young presents a precious wind orb jewel to help Soya travel without feeling any physical fatigue. Soya accepts the glowing blue treasure with wide eyes, feeling the weight of the clan's kindness. The warrior smiles encouragingly at Soya, confident in the girl's safety with the enchanted jewel. Soya promises to return safely before sunset as the maid gives her final words of caution. Yul and Suri arrive at the room with the boy enthusiastically asking if Soya is ready. Suri introduces herself as the group's escort while everyone exchanges polite and energetic morning greetings. Yeonjong instructs Suri to carry Soya if she gets tired, which the blue-haired girl happily accepts. The trio stands together, smiling brightly and ready to begin their adventure to Horim Mountain. Walking through the dense forest, Suri checks to see if Soya's legs are beginning to ache. Soya happily explains that the wind orb from Lady Sanho has kept her feeling perfectly energetic. A cheerful hum sounds as the cub bounces ahead, clearly excited to return to the mountain. Soya stops and looks forward with an expression of sudden surprise at something in the woods. Soya, Suri, and the white tiger cub enter a vibrant field of flowers. Soya marvels at the vast number of blooming flowers covering the forest floor. Soya points toward a specific spot, catching the attention of Suri and Yul. A beautiful blue skyflower stands out among the yellow white blossoms. Soya compares the real skyflower to her drawing to ensure she found it. Soya asks the white tiger cub if he believes the flower is indeed a skyflower. A sudden chomp sounds as the cub lunges forward and bites the flower. Soya and Suri watch in disbelief as the cub tastes the rare mountain flower. The white tiger cub chews happily, finding the taste of the flower quite agreeable. Soya cheers in delight, confirming that they have successfully found the elusive skyflower. Soya carefully digs out the flower, preserving its roots in a pile of soil. Soya prepares to leave, but Yul growls when he is teased for eating flowers. Hidden within the dark foliage, a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes watches them. A sudden gasp escapes Suri as she feels an eerie presence in the forest. Sanya pauses, her eyes widening as she wonders who might be watching them secretly. Soya looks around the meadow, feeling certain that someone is observing her every move. The scene shifts back to the quiet woods as Soya questions her own imagination. A loud shout echoes as the cub demands an explanation for the current situation. Yul sulks while wearing a flower crown as a penalty for losing a race. The flustered cub protests, claiming he was never told about such an embarrassing penalty. The group agrees to another game of hide-and-seek, with Soya beginning to count. Soya leans against a tree counting to 4 while Suri stands nearby looking unwell. Soya peeks through her hands, her focused gaze searching for a good hiding spot. Soya asks Suri what is wrong, noticing the girl's pale complexion and visible sweating. Suri explains she has an upset stomach, prompting Soya to suggest heading back down. A loud grumble sounds from Suri's stomach, making her feel even more miserable and guilty. Suri instructs Soya to stay with the cub while she runs back to the palace. Transforming into a sleek blue wolf, Suri sprints away with a final echoing farewell. Soya stands alone in the meadow, stunned by Suri's sudden and rapid departure. Soya remembers the game and decides it is time to find the hidden cub. A soft rustle sounds nearby, causing Soya to turn back with a questioning look. 2 snarling brown wolves emerge, leaving Soya terrified and confused by their aggressive behavior. A low, menacing growl vibrates through the air as the wolves close in on Soya. Soya trembles in fear, tears welling in her eyes as the dangerous beasts surround her. The wolves bared their teeth, saliva dripping as they prepared to attack the defenseless girl. Soya panics, realizing she must reach the young master before the wolves find him. Soya hesitates, fearing her presence might accidentally lead the dangerous beast to the cub. Soya remembers the wind orb and resolves to use its magic to escape the wolves. With a quick burst of speed, Soya turns and runs away from the snarling predators. Soya sprints through the dense trees, desperately trying to outrun the 2 pursuing wolves. Gasps for breath escape Soya as she pushes herself to run faster through the woods. A sharp snap sounds as one wolf lunges forward, barely missing the fleeing white-haired girl. Soya's eyes widen in terror. She hears the beast snapping at her very heels. Soya heads toward a tall, rocky ledge, hoping it will provide safety from her pursuers. Soya activates the wind orb's power to help her climb the steep and jagged cliff.
Looking down from the cliff top, Soya believes she is safe from the grounded wolves. Soya stares down at the wolves below, her expression shifting to one of sheer confusion. A quiet thought reflects Soya's wonder at why the wolves suddenly seem so utterly terrified. Below the cliff, the two wolves whimper and cower as they back away in fear. A heavy presence looms behind Soya as a large hand reaches out toward the girl. Soya realizes the ground beneath her is shaking violently as she stands on the cliff. A whoosh sound echoes as Soya loses her footing and looks down in sudden panic. A piercing scream rings out through the air as Soya falls from the rocky ledge. Fighting onto the soft grass, Soya lands clumsily in a field far below the cliff. Soya gasps in realization that the object she landed on is actually a living creature. A rustling sound fills the air as a massive dark demonic beast looms over Soya. Soya's hand trembles uncontrollably as she finds herself completely paralyzed with fear by the monster. Panic surges through Soya as she desperately commands herself to get up and run away. The dark creature, dripping with a liquid-like shadow, stares down at Soya with glowing eyes. Soya gazes up at the towering shadow, her eyes wide with terror as she awaits its next move. A cheerful chirp sounds as the massive beast suddenly transforms into a small, round blackbird. Soya stares in complete bewilderment as the menacing monster takes the shape of a harmless bird. Two small birds huddle together on the grass, letting out soft, inquisitive chirps at the girl. A liquid sound accompanies the creature as it begins to shift its physical form once again. Soya watches with bated breath as the black mass continues to morph into something entirely different. A soft pop sounds as a small, furry ear emerges from the shifting dark shape. The creature completes its transformation into a small black tiger cub wearing a blue leg ribbon. A shimmering light fills the field as the atmosphere shifts into something much more peaceful. Soya flinches away as the small black cub begins to crawl playfully toward her. The little tiger cub tilts its head and sticks its tongue out in a friendly gesture. A cute yip sounds from the cub as it tries to get Soya's attention. Soya watches the creature's antics, her fear slowly being replaced by curiosity and confusion. Rolling onto its back, the black cub playfully wiggles its paws in the bright sunlight. Soya asks if the cub is trying to show her that it has no intention of hurting her. Soya apologizes for her misunderstanding while the cub shakes its head as if to forgive her. The black tiger cub stares intently at Soya as if waiting for her to say something more. Sitting together in the sun-drenched meadow, Soya and her new companion share a quiet moment. Soya realizes the mysterious creature was actually trying to protect her from the dangerous wolves earlier. A happy chime sounds as Soya sincerely thanks the small beast for saving her life. Soya wonders how the creature managed to mimic her appearance earlier while a dark shadow watches. Narrator explains the dark history of the Black Tortoise clan unleashing monsters from the north. The floating text reveals that these unleashed monsters became known throughout the lands as demonic beasts. Narrator states that the leader Hyun Rabek used these beasts to plunge the continent into chaos. Clashing sounds of war echo as the Empire gathers warriors from every clan to fight back. The narrator recalls how both Sanyu and the White Tiger clan's eldest master joined the battlefield. Soya reflects on the story she heard as a child while looking at the cub. The girl remembers the many warnings she received about the inherent danger of demonic beasts. Soya observes the small cub and concludes that this particular creature doesn't seem evil at all. Soya introduces herself and asks the little tiger how it ended up alone in the woods. Soya warns the cub that staying out in the open will put its life in danger. Narrative text explains how humans might mistake the cub for a monster and try to hurt it. Soya looks down at the cub with a worried expression, fearing for its safety in the world. A soft scritch sounds as the cub uses its paw to write something in the soft dirt. Soya watches in disbelief as the little black tiger begins to form legible words in the ground. Gasping in surprise, Soya asks if the cub actually knows how to write human language. Soya questions if the name written in the dirt is the cub's true identity. The small black tiger cub nods its head vigorously to confirm that his name is Siorio. Soya smiles warmly and asks Siorio if they can be friends from now on. A soft rustle sounds as Soya considers her next steps for the journey back home. Soya worries about her promise to return to Lady Yenjong before the sun finally sets. The sun sets behind the massive Horam mountain, casting a golden glow over the landscape. Inside the palace, the gray-haired girl bows deeply while greeting the white-haired boy, Brother Hyan. The girl identifies herself as Yoon Seo, prompting the boy to apologize for his mistake. The white-haired boy mentions his awareness of her intentions regarding the westernmost room in the palace. Yoon Seo bows again, thanking the young master for expressing his concern regarding her recent actions. A branch of green leaves sways gently against the soft, bright light of the late afternoon. The white-haired boy's somber reflection stares back at him from the surface of his tea. While sharing tea with Yoon Seo, the boy quietly regrets not being kinder in their interaction. Hyun realizes he hasn't seen the cub all day as a woman walks with a child. Yoon Seo looks up in surprise as the young master suddenly stands from the tea table. A sudden worrying thought strikes him that someone might have left the palace due to him. The white-haired boy gasps, his hand covering his mouth in a moment of sheer, sudden realization. Followed by a servant, the young master sprints through the palace halls with a determined look. He searches the rooms frantically, questioning where the missing girl could have possibly gone today. The servant asks if he means Soya, and he confirms she hasn't been seen all day. He worries intensely about her missing her usual morning walk and her scheduled afternoon playtime sessions. A woman with long auburn hair turns her head as if hearing her name being called. In the Grand Library, the woman asks why the young master has come seeking Soya there. She explains that Soya left a Harm Mountain earlier in the day and hasn't returned yet. A loud grumble sounds as Suri enters the room, clutching her stomach and groaning in pain. The auburn-haired woman asks about the others, and Suri is relieved to see her sister, Yeonjan. Suri explains her stomach ache while the young master realizes Soya and the cub are still alone.
He turns away, his face clouded with worry as he prepares to head toward the mountain.
A flurry of quick footsteps sounds as the young master calls out for the youngest master. Outside, the servants notice the youngest master finally returning alone from his trip to the mountain. The little boy walks toward them with a dazed expression, prompting his brother to call out. The boy asks if they have seen Soya, but his brother points out they went together. Sweating and looking distressed, the little boy realizes something has gone terribly wrong on the mountain. The older brother's eyes widen in horror as he realizes Soya might truly be lost outside. The boy explains they were playing tag before he fell asleep and woke up alone. A sharp reprimand follows as the older boy scolds him for returning to the palace alone. A soft sniffle escapes the younger boy as he is questioned for crying over his mistake. The older brother clenches his fists, his expression filled with guilt and mounting fear for Soya. A reassuring voice tells the young master not to worry too much about the current situation. Searching the dark woods, the group notes the mountain is safe, yet Soya's scent is missing. An ominous thought suggests that something unnatural is preventing Soya from being found by her companions. The dense forest is swallowed by the deep blue shadows of the rapidly approaching mountain night. Transforming into a tiger, the young master orders the others to return while he searches alone. Darkness has fully claimed the mountain woods, making the search for the missing girl much harder. Soya waits by a tree, hoping the young master will find her soon by her scent. A sudden wind blows and a loud achoo echoes as the cold night air bites at Soya. Soya notices the pink scent pouch on the grass, remembering it was a gift from Lord Seo. She reaches down and picks up the small pouch, hoping its presence might somehow help her. Another loud achoo rings out as the shivering girl continues to struggle against the freezing night. The small black cub nuzzles against Soya's side, trying to offer what little warmth it can. Soya notices the cub is also cold and kindly offers to hold him close for warmth. A happy cue sounds as Soya hugs the black cub, who blushes at the sudden affection. Shivering in the dark, Soya holds the cub tightly while he watches her with large eyes. Soya asks what is wrong as the cub suddenly leaps away from her toward the trees. A soft tapping sounds from above the tree as Soya sits alone in the dark forest. Rustling sounds fill the air as large green leaves sway in the forest. Soya spots Siorio bringing her a giant leaf to shelter her from the cold. A cheerful kyong sounds as the cub huddles with her under the makeshift canopy. Soya watches the shivering cub, her previous fear softening into concern for her companion. A soft thud sounds as the girl adjusts the large leaf over her head. Soya's face lights up with a warm, genuine smile at the cub's kind gesture. Sitting together, Soya expresses her sincere gratitude to the small black tiger for his help. The cub tilts its head curiously, listening intently as the girl speaks to him. A soft giggle escapes Soya as she hides her face behind her hand. Soya grows somber, worrying about her broken promise to return home before the sunset. She laments being unable to deliver a special flower to the second young master. A single purple flower rests safely inside a small wooden container amidst the forest floor. A sharp gasp escapes Soya as a sudden loud sound startles her in the darkness. Rhythmic thuds echo as Soya fears another wild beast is approaching through the trees. A loud crash sounds as an invisible barrier shatters into glowing blue shards. A fierce roar sounds as Siorio stands defensively in front of the startled girl. Powerful gusts of wind whip through the trees, creating a chaotic and tense atmosphere. Soya realizes the rhythmic sounds are not from an animal, but a person's footsteps. A pair of legs sprints quickly through the underbrush, closing the distance to her. Soya wonders if the people from the palace have finally arrived to rescue her. She imagines the danger of masked attackers while fear grips her heart in the dark. Soya clenches her eyes shut in terror, desperately wishing to survive this frightening May. Her name is called and Soya looks up with tearful eyes filled with sudden hope. Recognition dawns on her as she identifies the familiar voice calling out to her. A sudden firm embrace pulls Soya close as floral light fills the surrounding forest. Soya stares in disbelief as the white-haired boy holds her in a protective hug. In the blue-lit woods, the young master clings to Soya, unwilling to let her go. Soya realizes the young master is trembling violently as he holds her tightly. Confused by his intense reaction, Soya wonders how she should handle his sudden vulnerability. The soft whine sounds as Siorio watches the emotional reunion from a short distance. The young master gently pats Soya's back, trying to soothe her after the ordeal. He pulls back and grips her shoulders, his expression frantic as he checks for injuries. Soya notices his hands are freezing while he admits how terrified he was for her. The silver-haired boy blames himself for her getting lost and for his own incompetence. He begins to remove his outer robe to protect the shivering girl from the cold. The young master drapes his white robe over Soya's shoulders to keep her warm. Stepping through the dark forest, the boy carries Soya on his back toward home. Soya tries to decline the ride, but he insists, citing the danger of the night. Soya's face flushes with a deep blush as she rests against the young master's back. She reflects on how safe he feels, comparing his back to that of Sir Seon. He apologizes for being late, explaining he had to break through a strange barrier. He notices Siorio and questions why the black cub has been following them all day. Soya considers if the barrier the young master encountered was actually created by the cub. A look of deep suspicion and concern crosses the silver-haired boy's weary face. He asks Soya to confirm if the beasts of the mountain actually attacked her. Soya prepares to recount the terrifying events that occurred while she was alone. She feels a surge of guilt for failing to stay with the youngest young master. The boy asks again if she was bitten or injured by any of the monsters. Soya is taken aback by his persistent and overwhelming concern for her physical well-being. She assures him of her safety, explaining how a lent orb helped her escape danger. Hyun acknowledges Soya's previous fear as they walk through the dark woods together. The white-haired boy carries the girl on his back, both showing deep emotional strain. Soya clings tightly to a rescuer's back as they continue their journey towards safety. Noticing his torn and damaged sleeve, Soya wonders if he was hurt searching for her. The boy begins to address his behavior from the previous day while they walk home. Noticing Serio following, the boy decides to ignore the cub since it seems harmless enough. Hyun clarifies his previous insult was aimed at his brother, not the girl's handmade charm. He explains that the stone charm needed a partner, showing a second stone with a tiger. Soya asks if he kept the charm, and he flusteredly claims he just didn't recognize it. Pausing in the woods, the boy sincerely apologizes, admitting his previous excuses were lies. He takes full responsibility for his poor treatment and hurtful comments since her arrival. The boy asks if she might eventually forgive him once her feelings have properly settled. Soya offers a gentle smile, assuring him she is no longer sad and feels fine. She thanks the young master for coming to save her, leaving him momentarily stunned. Smiling warmly, the boy promises he will always come running whenever she needs him. He asks Soya to stop using his formal title and call him older brother instead. Thud. A heavy pair of feet steps firmly onto the palace ground as they arrive. Returning to the palace, the boy looks up in surprise at a sudden authoritative presence. The scene shifts to the main building as someone calls out to the family patriarch. Lord Seon welcomes them back, praising his son for protecting the palace during his absence. When Seon offers to carry Soya, she sleepily calls Hyun Oppa, leaving the boy flustered. The boy firmly declines the help, insisting on carrying the sleeping girl to her room himself. Lord Seon watches his son's protective behavior with a look of mild, quiet surprise. A subtle smirk touches the Lord's lips as he finds the boy's sudden devotion amusing. The group heads inside while the mysterious black cub watches them from the palace courtyard. Seon notices the strange creature and expresses curiosity about its unexpected presence at the palace. Wah! The Lord questions the cub's identity as it lets out a small, high-pitched whimper. The small striped cub stands alone on the stone floor, looking confused by the attention. The scene shifts to a quiet, decorated interior hallway within the grand palace. Peeking through a sliding door, Yoon-seo watches the reunion with a look of deep concern. She wonders what the creature is, noting it doesn't appear to be a normal tiger cub. Biting her finger, she worries that she might lose her position as the Western Wing's master. Yoon-seo fears that Soya's adoption into the family will ruin all of her carefully laid plans. Visible panic takes hold of the girl as she contemplates her failing influence within the palace. A mysterious voice notes that things are not going as planned for the young lady. A masked man appears before the startled girl, his presence adding tension to the room. He finds the lack of animal attack strange, while Yoon-seo looks on in utter shock. Snap! Yoon-seo grips the doorframe tightly as she processes the failure of her scheme. She angrily confronts the man, demanding to know why his sachet plan only made things worse. The masked man suggests that an unexpected variable interfered with their original plot against the girl. A close-up reveals the sharp eyes of the masked man as he evaluates the current situation. Yoon-seo worries about Soya's rising popularity, but the man assures her adoption won't happen. The masked man offers a confident hidden smile while listening to the girl's frantic concerns. He mentions discovering the child's weakness, prompting Yoon-seo to listen with a cold, focused expression. The following morning, Soya sits up in bed, looking surprised by her familiar surroundings. The servants express their immense relief that the young miss survived the dark mountain night unharmed. Soya looks down with a somber expression, apologizing to her companions for causing them worry. One servant playfully scolds another for failing to protect the girl during the previous night's ordeal. Rustle. A sudden sound from the garden catches their attention as they speak by the window. The youngest master, "I'm just a language model and can't help with that." The silver-haired boy looks on with tearful eyes, visibly distressed by the recent events. A loud thud sounds as the striped tiger cub comes flying through the open palace window. Soya comforts the whimpering cub, assuring him that she has returned safely to the palace. A man's sleeve is visible as he insists the cub needs to be scolded much more. Soya addresses the second young master as her gaze falls upon a beautiful floral arrangement. The silver-haired boy offers a gentle, soft smile while standing amidst the vibrant, blooming flowers. A ceramic pot holds a flourishing plant adored with several bright, glowing blue sky flowers. The bottom of the white porcelain vase rests quietly on the polished wooden table surface. Sitting together, the boy asks if she brought the flowers specifically for him as a gift. He thanks the girl while internally worrying about the physical injuries she suffered during her ordeal. Soya looks up with a start, surprised by the boy's unexpected display of genuine kindness. Blushing deeply, the girl smiles warmly and accepts him as her older brother with sincere joy. The cub watches them, confused as to why the boy is being called brother by Soya. Wah! The small tiger demands that he be called her older brother too during a tantrum. The boy scolds the cub, calling him a disgrace for failing to protect the girl properly. A look of utter shock and embarrassment crosses the boy's face during their heated, childish argument. He notices Soya's sudden silence and asks what is wrong, his tone shifting back to concern. A soft giggle escapes the girl as she covers her mouth, finding their bickering quite amusing. Wah! The cub calls the boy a bad tiger before being told to be quiet immediately. Soya recalls the terrifying night in the forest and the small creature that stayed to protect her. They discuss how the mysterious creature followed them before eventually disappearing into the dark forest shadows. Soya reflects that the cub returning to the mountains is best to avoid being hunted. A heavy, awkward silence fills the room as the girl sits with her head bowed low. A sharp sound echoes as Soya's hands tighten in her lap, betraying her internal emotional turmoil. Looking somber, the girl gazes off into the distance while wrestling with her own heavy thoughts. Soya sits alone on the grand palace steps, surrounded by the peaceful greenery of the gardens. Determination flickers in the girl's eyes as she contemplates her next move within the palace walls. The boy asks if anyone gave her a suspicious item, noting someone deliberately hid her trail. Soya considers how the purple sachet caused the beast's aggression and the lady's likely deep hatred. Sitting outside, the girl wonders if she should reveal the truth about the sachet to Hyan. Her name is suddenly called out, breaking her focus and causing her to look up quickly. A brown-haired girl runs towards Soya, expressing her relief that she survived the previous night. The newcomer angrily blames the tiger cub for leaving Soya alone, but Soya defends his character. Soya asks the girl not to hold such a strong grudge against the young master. The girl's face pales as Soya reveals she will be leaving the palace very soon. Soya explains that she must vacate her room to accommodate a new lady arriving shortly. Stunned by the news, the brown-haired girl streaks at Soya with a look of pure disbelief. A close-up of Soya's eye reveals a hidden sadness as she accepts her uncertain future. Squeeze, Miss Orang firmly takes Soya's hands in hers, offering her unwavering support and friendship. She offers to take Soya to her own home, promising to protect her from any bullies. Surprised by the sudden invitation, Soya listens as the girl begs her to come live away. A bright, joyful smile lights up the brown-haired girl's face as she presents her kind offer. The two girls share a happy moment together, holding hands as they talk in the courtyard. Creak! A sudden sound from the palace roof signals the arrival of a high-ranking visitor. They notice a grand palanquin arriving, signaling the appearance of another important guest at the palace. Hook Sahe from the Black Tiger clan arrives, her stern expression suggesting a very foul mood. Arang observes the newcomer, noting how upset the young lady appears to be upon her arrival. She explains that Sahe wanted to marry the prince but instead became his sibling through adoption. The narrative reveals Sahe believes the Western Room belongs to her since others refuse the clan. Soya looks on with a quiet, thoughtful expression after hearing the details about the new arrival. Arang insists cuteness isn't enough to survive, offering to teach Soya self-defense at her home. Soya's eyes widen in surprise as she notices a familiar presence moving nearby in the garden. Soya suddenly springs to her feet, leaving Arang confused by her abrupt and startled movement. Soya quickly excuses herself from the conversation, promising her friend they will speak again very soon. A quick tap sounds as Soya catches up to the hidden cub, confirming her initial suspicions. Wah! After a short chase, the energetic black cub lets out a happy cry upon being discovered. Soya urgently warns the small creature that the palace is dangerous, telling him to return home. Soya worries about the cub being spotted as it stubbornly refuses to leave her side just yet. Soya's heart sinks as an authoritative voice notes that she has made a new friend. Soya panics that Lord Seon saw them, fearing he might mistake Celio for an evil demon beast. Fearful of a misunderstanding, Soya worries that Lord Seon will try to hurt Celio as he looms over them. The scene shifts as the chapter concludes, leaving the fate of the girl's secret uncertain.